the old part of the city. I showed this picture, the Citadel of Saladin. We will go into the Citadel, and now this is the mosque. This is the mosque of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali Mosque. It doesn't look like, if anybody among you have visited any other Arabic country, the architecture of this mosque may seem to be quite different from the mosques that you may have seen in other Arabic countries, because this is an Ottoman mosque from the middle of 19th century, from 1830s, built by the ruler of Egypt at the time, Muhammad Ali Pasha. Now, who was this Muhammad Ali? He is a very important figure in modern Egyptian history, because he is considered to be the founder of modern Egypt. Muhammad Ali Pasha, Pasha is a Turkish word for general. He happens to be an Ottoman general who was born in a small town named Kavala in northern Greece, today's Macedonia. And he was born as a son of a small tobacco merchant, and he joined the Ottoman army, raised in ranks, became a pasha, became a general, and he was sent to Egypt in 1805 to fight against the French. At the time, Napoleon occupied Egypt, so he came there with his army, but the French were already willing to, leave the place in the first place. So Napoleon and army just left, and he was appointed as the governor of Egypt, and he established his own dynasty, fought against the Ottomans, and Egypt became an independent state, starting with this Muhammad Ali. That is why he is regarded to be the founder of modern Egypt. Now, from the Muhammad Ali Mosque, this is another mosque. This is about 1,000 years older than Muhammad Ali Mosque, Holland Mosque. This is one of the oldest Islamic structures in Egypt, built in the middle of, or at the beginning of 10th century AD. And it is well, the structure itself is small, but historically and architecturally, it is from early Islamic period. So it is very important, and that the area it covers is very big. In that sense, it is the biggest mosque in the country as far as the area that it covers is concerned. So we'll visit this Tolan Mosque too. Now, the old part of the city, another important part that we cannot miss is the City of the Dead.
It's because we don't do that.
The City of the Dead, that is an old necropolis. Well, I mentioned that Cairo is a big city, population more than 9 million, and some of the population, especially the homelessness and low income, of course, those are big problems in the city. So what they did was this old necropolis, which covers a huge area, that is an old cemetery, historic cemetery with monumental tombs. So people started to occupy these monumental tombs and turned them into their houses, their homes, their residential area. So the huge cemetery that covers a significant part of downtown Cairo is now converted into this kind of cemetery slumish residential area, which is called the City of Dead. And we'll visit a part of it that is an interesting site as a necropolis, as a historic cemetery in itself. But with the population that is living there, it becomes even more interesting. So the next day in Cairo, the first day in Cairo is dedicated to the foundation of the modern country and the Islamic Cairo. Our second day in Cairo is dedicated to the ancient Egyptian civilization. So we will drive to Giza. Actually, We'll be staying at a hotel in Giza, Marriott Manor House, located just very close to the pyramids. And we have rooms, we already allocated rooms that face the pyramids. So from our rooms, we'll be able to see at least part of the pyramids close to our hotel. So we will drive to this area, Giza, and we will start our visits of the sites that are from the ancient Egyptian civilization. Now, first we will start with Saqqara, that is a big burial ground which goes back to the start of the Egyptian civilization. We will learn about the development of the pyramids. This is, as you see, a step pyramid. They didn't start, building pyramids all at once with the, the pyramid shape, perfect shape of a pyramid, but they first started experimenting. So we will see various examples of how the shape of the pyramid developed, how the this burial idea came from the ancient Egyptian culture. Then we will, of course, visit the main area with the three huge pyramids, and we will see them just, in close, the pyramid of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaura. So we will have, we will spend some time over there. Just I have to mention that we will have a local Egyptologist guide with us who is an expert in these, and our guide will give detailed information about ancient Egyptian culture, about their practices, about their belief system and everything. So it will be quite interesting and informative. We will, of course, one of the highlights in Giza is the solar boat museum that is found in one of the pyramids in pieces, and that was brought together and being exhibited now. That is believed to be the boat that was put into the pyramid together with the mummified pharaoh to take him from this world to the other world. So it is really impressive to see this in location. And yet another highlight is the Great Sphinx. Now, we will of course see this, but there is something special that we arranged, which is we arranged a private entry to the Sphinx area. Now, when you visit Giza, usually you are not allowed to go close by and you just see the Sphinx at a distance. But seeing it close by and seeing the details, the hieroglyphic writings on the walls, on the sides of the Sphinx, and feeling the size of it close by and getting information about the different features of the Sphinx, that will really be very an impressive experience with this private access to the Sphinx, and we'll be able to walk all the way to the Sphinx close by and get information there. So this is our 2 days in Cairo. Now we have first 2 days and 3 nights in Cairo at the beginning, and then we have our Nile cruise and visiting our locations, and then fly back, and we'll have 2 more days in Cairo and 2 more nights in Cairo at the end. So after our 2 days in Cairo on March 21st, Monday, we will fly south from Cairo to Luxor. Now, we need to just get used to the terms of Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt. Now, just because we have maps that have north, up, south, down, we associate up with north and down with south generally. But when we say Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, that is not the case. It's just a reverse. Lower Egypt, that is with respect to sea, with respect to Mediterranean, where Nile flows into. So Lower Egypt is Cairo and Alexandria and Mediterranean coast. And Upper Egypt is where we are now, Luxor and Aswan, and then the south of the country. So we fly to Upper Egypt, and one of the very, very important centers of ancient Egyptian civilization, Luxor. Now, these 2 days, we will embark the ship, and for 4 nights, we will be on our ship, partly docked, and we'll use it as a hotel, and partly sailing and cruising from one location to the other. We will come to that too in a short while. Now, these 2 days will be really very impressive on the one hand, and very full, very packed. In a Luxor area, there are a lot to see, a lot of things to see. So there's Luxor Temple and Karnak Temple. There are two temple complexes. They are not one, single temples as we'll see in other places, but temple complexes that brought together a bunch of different features and buildings or related to Egyptian pantheon. These are located on the east side of the Nile River. One day is dedicated to this area, and the other day is dedicated to the west side of the Nile River, where we are going to see one other temple, plus the Valley of the Kings and a number of other locations, which I'm going to mention in a short while. So this is the Luxor Temple, an aerial view. Now we need to be there, and just, if you really join this tour, this is the impressive moment. The sizes of buildings, all these statues, all the reliefs, these are enormous. And again, just, a close up kind of, you see the sizes of buildings with respect to the people over there, huge buildings, huge areas. And we will visit the Luxor Temple complex with our Egyptologist guide, another view, and also the Karnak Temple complex. We will learn about the hieroglyphic symbols. We will learn about talk about the gods in Egyptian pantheon, and how this symbol of Ra, symbol of sun, the topmost deity, developed. We will learn about these characters here. The pharaoh on the left, what does his cap signify with this cobra snake coming out? What does it signify? And Anubis on the right-hand side, the deity, the god of mummification. So we will learn about what they are doing, what the deal is here. That is really very, very interesting. I will not go into details here. So the Karnak Temple here, this is another temple complex next to Luxor Temple Complex. This is the main entrance, right and left, a close-up photo here, guarded by ram-headed sphinxes. And when we go inside, of course, we see all these different hieroglyphics with narration of various rituals, plus drawings and paintings on the walls. This particular painting actually is not from Karnak Temple, but this is from the west side of the river. So the next day, when we go to visit the places on the west side, we will first start with the cemetery of the artisans, of the people who worked here in the construction of these temples, and the artisans who carved those hieroglyphic symbols and painted all these pictures. So that is also an impressive place to see the pictures depicting here, for example, the daily life of Egyptian farmers. Just, they are sowing and the harvest, and all the story of the life of an Egyptian farmer. This is from the tomb of a vizier named Ramose, for example. So we will see all these details, but the highlight, of course, is the Valley of the Kings. Now, Valley of the Kings, this is, as the name implies, it's a valley. It's located in a barren valley. And now we saw in Giza, we saw the pyramids. Now, pyramids as huge monumental tombs were kind of too visible, as the size might suggest. So they were more prone to robbers, more prone to thieves, and more prone to getting, into ruins to search for various treasures that people thought to be inside. So after a certain period, starting from the second millennium, the royal family chose this area to bury their dead. So hence the Valley of the Kings and Queens, of course. A close-up photo here, carved into the both sides of the valley were found chambers. So of course, now they are all codified and labeled, and the openings for most of them are, just there's access for the visitors. So here we will visit a number of the tombs of pharaohs. This is entrance to the tomb of a pharaoh, one of the lesser pharaohs. This is here inside the main chamber of Ramses I burial chamber, for example. And the highlight, of course, which we are going to visit, which is included in our program, is the burial chamber of Tutankhamen again. So here it is a partial picture. So he was the pharaoh in 1300s BC. After we visit the Valley of the Kings, another impressive place we are going to visit is the temple built by the one and only female pharaoh of the 13th century BC, Queen Hatshepsut. So we will visit the temple. It's possible to go inside and see, of course, all the hieroglyphics, and we'll do that, and all the paintings inside. So this will be our time in Luxor in 2 days. And another highlight in Luxor is we also arranged to have a private meeting and private exposition by the director of antiquities of Luxor, and he will give us a special lecture, and he will take us to an excavation site where we will see an actual ongoing excavation firsthand. So in Luxor, well, when we arrived in Luxor 2 days ago, 2 days, that was the Monday, and we already embarked our ship, and our ship is ready to sail towards Aswan, to Upper Egypt, to the south. But in between Luxor and Aswan, we will visit 2 more temples on the way. Now, at this point, I want to give some information about the Nile cruise. Nile cruise, of course, we will be on this boat, a river boat, Mayfair. It's a 5-star Nile cruiser. Nile cruisers are generally not big in size, being a river boat. They normally have about 70, 75 cabins. All the cabins face outside, so there are no inside or outside cabins. All the cabins have windows. As we see here, our boat, river boat, will have 4 decks, 3 decks with the cabins and some common areas and restaurants, and the top sun deck. Now let's see a few pictures. This is the entrance to the boat, the lobby area, and the lounge area and the bar. There's another lounge and the sun deck with jacuzzis, and there's also a small pool for those who may be interested. And of course, just nice dining, a nice restaurant on board, and cabins. Cabins, as you might expect on a cruise, are not extremely big. They are about 20 square feet, 20 square meters. And as I mentioned, they have private shower, toilet, and all the cabins have windows facing outside. So we will be on this boat and sailing from Luxor first to a temple in EDFU. Now, in EDFU, this is it's different from the temple complexes in Luxor and Karnak. This is not a temple complex, but it is a single temple dedicated to Horus. So he's the main god, the chief god, and we will visit this temple of Horus in Edfu and learn about the mythology behind that. And then we will sail further south into Upper Egypt and visit the temple in OMBO. This is a double temple. Now, this is the previous temple that was from the 2nd millennium BC, whereas this temple in Komombo is from the 2nd century BC, where the Greco-Roman dynasties started to rule Egypt. So this was 2 temples in one. From one side, it was a temple of Sobek, the crocodile god, and from the other side, it was a temple of Haroeris, that was related to Horus, the top god. So here we see Sobek, a relief of the crocodile god from this temple in Komombo. So we'll visit these temples in detail. Now, one thing I need to mention also about the cruise is normally on cruises, just independent travelers also book the cruises. So there'll be other people, other groups there may be. And the cruise lines, they offer their own tours in Luxor, in ASWAN, or in these locations where we're going to visit. We will not join them. We will not be with other people. We will not be with other travelers on the boat. But we will have our own guide and our own transportation and our own group. We will have our own private tours wherever we visit during the Nile cruise. So from this Edfu Komombo day and night, we sail further south to Aswan. This was another center, a small city today, of population of about 400,000 people. And we see all these feluccas, the traditional Egyptian boats, sailboats. So the main city is located on the east bank of the river, and there are a number of islands on the Nile River. So we will visit here the dam. Of course, we'll talk about that in a short while. Which was constructed in 1950s, an important energy source and water source for Egypt. We will visit this quarry where most of the rocks pieces came from for the construction of the temples, of the reliefs, of the obelisks that we see in different locations. So we even see an unfinished obelisk here. So we'll talk about how the quarry worked, how all these pieces were quarried, were taken out, were given shape, and sculpted and then carried to the temple, to the locations to build all those temples in Lower Egypt. So that is an interesting site in itself. And another temple on the island of Philae on Nile. We will visit this unique temple, which is in UNESCO Heritage List. And also we will visit the Nubian Museum. Now, when we say Nubia, Nubia refers to the southern part of Egypt all the way, southernmost part, and most of the Nubia, what is called geographic Nubia, is today within the borders of Sudan to the south of Egypt. So Nubian culture is more local to this area and more African. Now, one interesting thing about Egypt is in the north, when you ask the Egyptians, they don't see themselves as a part of Africa. It is more Mediterranean. It's more Arab culture, Islamic culture, of course, within, in hundreds of years, the identity changed. So when we go down south here, it is more African, and the African roots of the ancient Egyptian civilization we will see here in this museum. In that sense, this is an extremely important local museum that we are going to visit in Aswan. Now, after our day in Aswan, now Upper Egypt, we are not all over with Upper Egypt yet. We will have another excursion that is on March 25th. Now, this will be early in the morning. We will take a flight, not a long flight. We will fly from Aswan down south all the way, very close to Sudanese border, to Abu Simbel, to see another important temple built by and for two Ramses pharaohs from different periods. But here it is a huge monument. And it's really interesting to see this in location. Now, this is an interesting structure in the sense that this was not located here in the first place. This was located much closer to Nile River in a valley. But when Egypt started constructing the dam, it was obvious that that location would be flooded and this temple would be buried underwater. So what they did was they just cut this temple into big blocks, big chunks of rock, and carried it in highland here and reconstructed it as close to as its, in a location as close to as its similar location with its, with the same look on the side of a hill. So just by its location and, surrounded by the desert, in the middle of the desert here, this is really an impressive temple. Early in the morning, we fly there. We fly early in the morning because we try to avoid the heat in the middle of the day. So that's the best time to visit this temple here from the middle of the 13th century BC. We will visit these temples and then take the flight back to Cairo, the direct flight. So by the time we arrive in Cairo, it will be early afternoon, and we will continue our day visiting the bazaar in Cairo, Khan el-Khalili. That is one of the interesting places. It is not, in a strict sense, a touristy bazaar. It has its, tourist sections where you can buy souvenirs and carpets and different pieces of original, clothing, fabrics, and that kind of stuff. But it is also important for the local people, where they come to shop and to enjoy their tea or coffee, old tea houses, coffee houses around. and restaurants. So we will spend some time in Khan al Khalili Bazaar, some free time maybe for shopping. And our next and final day in Cairo, this will be another phase of Egypt, the Christian and Jewish part of Cairo. So the Coptic population in Egypt is about, or is more than, I should say, 10% of the population. And most of them live in and around Cairo. So we'll visit a number of Coptic churches and talk about early Christianity, the history of how Christianity came to Egypt. As you might know, not Cairo, but Alexandria to the north, about 2.5 hours drive to Cairo on the coast of Mediterranean. Alexandria was one of the main Episcopal churches of early Christianity. So we'll talk about early Christianity and how Coptic Church developed, and visit two churches and one of the now remaining synagogues in the city center. Now, there isn't much of a Jewish population. Of course, we know the recent history. So almost all the Jewish population left Egypt, and there are only, well, a few dozens of Jewish, if at all, residents living in Cairo. So that will be the end of our trip in Cairo. We'll spend our final night, and then we will fly back to Houston. The flights that we suggested are on Turkish Airlines via Istanbul. They give the best connections. So that's why we chose, and also the fares are quite favorable. But it's also possible for those who would like to take other airlines. It's possible to fly on Lufthansa or British Airways. That is also possible. But we made our plans based on the Turkish airline flights. Of course, we will taste Egyptian food, which is mainly Middle Eastern. So we will have different kebabs and hummus and different beans and lentils, and it's all delicious. Although it is, we can just collect it under the general name of Middle Eastern food. Egypt has its own emphasis on different spices and different tastes. So what we are going to taste over there will be a little bit different from what we may have tasted, let's say, in Jordan or Saudi Arabia or any other Arabic country. So that brings us to the end of our trip. And I will just stop sharing my screen.
And I'm going to go ahead and join in too. So I expect that you might have some questions. It'll be helpful to me if you raise your hand.
I will start my video here.
Yeah, if you have a question, just raise your hand. I can see you, and I'll mute yourself. That way we can maybe introduce yourself, and we'll tackle questions one at a time. Sally, I see you had a question. Florence, you have a question as well. So I'm going to start with Sally, and then we go ahead and to Florence as next. All right, Sally.
Is there internet throughout the trip, or is there
yes,
places where we won't be able to get it?
Well, at the hotels that we're going to stay, as I mentioned, we'll stay at Marriott Mena House in our first day in Giza. Definitely just top-notch hotel. In our final 2 days in Cairo, we'll be staying at Four Seasons First Residence. Again, a top-notch hotel. So there will be no problem for internet connection. And on the cruise, there is also Wi-Fi. So we will have connection on the cruise too. For 4 nights, we'll be on the boat, but the connection may be sometimes sketchy. So we shouldn't expect a Zoom call, for example, or a video call. But checking our emails and checking basic news, that will be possible. Yes.
Florence, do you have a question?
I have a question. So
Oh.
this is my first, oh, is it somebody else thing?
No,
I'm
it's you.
sorry.
Welcome.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, this is my very first time. So how often are these trips scheduled? And can you pay it out, or do you need to send everything at once, or how is it done? How's the financial part of it done?
Julius, do you want to tackle that? Or you would like me
Well,
to?
the first part, how often is, well, for Egypt now, as World Affairs Council, what we do is we do not operate tours to same destination back to back, or with some frequency. So for Egypt, we have only one trip as World Affairs Council of Houston, and this is it. So if we had the previous one, for example, just before the pandemic in 2000, at the end of 2019. So if there was no pandemic, we knew that there would be demand, so we would operate this tour in 2020. But unfortunately, this came, and so we had to postpone it. So what I mean to say is, for each destination that you see on World Affairs Council travel site, those trips are unique, and we don't repeat them so often. The uniqueness comes from certain private visits that we organize, we incorporate into the trip, which I mentioned a short while ago. Also, certain additional meetings that World Affairs Council incorporates into the trip. As for where the payment is concerned, when you go to the website, World Affairs Council travel web pages, when you download the application form, you will see the initial deposit, the due date, and then when the balance will be due. So all those dates are given over there. I'm sure you will get detailed information over there. Is there anything you would like to add, Sandhya?
I don't think so. I think usually when individual submits an application, there's a deposit fee to tell us that we are, considering very seriously. We have decided to proceed with the trip. That allows us as an organization to communicate back to Elias and his, individual providers back to Egypt to say how many are thinking. Is this a group of 20, or is this a group of 2, or what kind of accommodation? So we keep in touch this. And again, this is a commitment from a traveler saying that, yes, I'm seriously interested. And it serves as a deposit, of course, which later gets deducted from the total amount paid. Yeah, Jermaine, all yours.
The airlines that you're recommending, Turkish, I believe you say airlines. A couple of questions. In that part of the country, do they honor non-smoking, or they're allowed to smoke on the flights? Number one. Number two, do they have first class? And then number three, do they have many stops en route to the destination? Are there 1, 2, 3 stops or non-stop?
Yep. So let me answer your questions in order. The smoking thing, well, no smoking at all. I don't think there is any airline, any well-established airline on earth that allows travelers to smoke anymore. So strictly no smoking during the flight. So there's no problem about that. About direct flights, well, from Houston, first of all, there are no direct flights to Cairo. The only direct flight is from JFK, from New York, that is by Egypt Air. So there is that. When we use another airline like Turkish Airlines, there is only one stop, fortunately, because there is direct connection between Houston and Istanbul. So there are no other stops, just one stop, Houston, Istanbul, Cairo. And there isn't, much connection time. And on the way back, it is the same. Cairo, Istanbul, Houston. So that is good. Altogether, it's about 16 hours. From Houston to Cairo, it's about 16 hours, including the layover time in Istanbul. About the flight classes, Turkish Airlines offers business class, and their service is really very good. But of course, having said that, I need to remind that because of COVID restrictions, now the service configuration changed on every airline. So they don't, you still have to use the mask. Of course, till March of 2022, things may change and if the conditions may be relaxed back to normal, we will see that. But as of now, you still need to have your mask on, and the food service is not that frequent. The drink service is not as frequent as it was before the pandemic. So, but Turkish Airlines is known for its good service, good food, and good lounges at the airports. So, if you choose to, go that way, I'm sure you will like Turkish Airlines.
Okay, great.
Was there anything else that I haven't answered? I think that was it.
I think Mike has a question.
Yes.
I think you're muted though. Mike, you're muted. Almost. Still muted.
There we go.
There we go.
I just want to comment on Turkish Airlines. I've flown several times, but not for a couple of years. And the service and the flights are all very good as any other airline. And I've had to lay over overnight. They give you a free hotel room. And it's in a high quality airport. I mean, a high quality hotel. So I wouldn't be afraid to fly Turkish Airlines.
Thank you for adding that.
And for those who are Houstonians and who participate in United program, Turkish is also partner airline. So if your points is a value, upgrade is a value, Turkish and United Airlines are partner airlines. So that is helpful for collecting the points or perhaps using the points to upgrade it. On a little bit of different note, you mentioned that the flying and early. If anybody would like to come in early, as in arrive to Cairo early, that is always available. Or if you would say, I'm already in the region and I would like to extend my stay maybe for 2 more nights and do something else, that is always available as well. I know some of our members like to fly in day or 2 early just because to arrive early, to get settled, kind of get in their own rhythm, get accustomed to the time, and just, sleep in a little before we start the tour. Because once we start the tour, we really start the tour. So that is always available, and we can certainly, with Ilya's help, facilitate that for the flights as well, the hotels.
And if you choose to fly with Turkish Airlines, Istanbul is of course a just an easy destination to spend a couple of nights, either going there or coming back. It won't add any extra airfare because you'll fly through Istanbul anyhow. So you might as well stay there for a couple of nights and see the city and then fly back to Houston. That's also an option.
Go ahead, Mike. You're still muted though. Yeah. Thank you.
When we're traveling on the tour, are we free to take a day off and travel, or if we get interested in a side site, can we take off and visit some other? Can we leave the tour, in other words, for a few hours and go visit something else if we choose? Or are we locked in? Do we have to keep with the group in order to keep security?
No, let me tackle it. We realize that everybody's different, so that we come from different backgrounds. We like our 6 a.m. coffee or prefer the 9 a.m. coffee. So all of us are different of how we like our day. And that's actually a bit of a positive challenge. We always struggle. Do we do a lot, from 6 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. or do we sleep in and take it and enjoy and sip the coffee and watch the pyramids and enjoy the sights? So it is really depends, as all of us are different. We understand that we try to accommodate it. So Mike, kind of your question is that as much as we would like you to be part of it, because everything is, oriented for the greater experience. But if there is a day that you say, you know what, I just need to sit on a cruise and put my toes in the water and enjoy the view, there won't be any repercussions if you were to stay in the boat and just take a day off and literally take in the sights, because it is experience. And again, it's about that history and visuals that are, created as you're part of this experience. So no, nobody will be there requesting mandatory participation. We encourage it because we put in, a lot of work into it. But if the day that you say, I arrived, I just need to slow it down, or perhaps participate morning activities, or maybe I do something in the afternoon, tell me where I meet you later and I'll get there myself. So I think Jermaine, you have another question?
Yes, I do. I want to step back in time and go back to the COVID issue. Considering that, and we don't know what it's going to be like by the time March rolls around. Is there going to be some sort of protocol or some sort of means to more or less not expose ourselves to big crowds of people, considering that there's such a low percentage? Even I understand, even though you have the vaccination, is it still, are we going to try to not, or will it be like a herd mentality of a bunch of people together in close space? I guess I want to hear how that's going to be managed.
Yes, that is true. It will be the reasonable way of doing it. But having said that, let me remind you that with a group tour, most of the time we are, I mean, under normal conditions, we are with our group in the first place. Most of the time we spend with our group in the first place. So it doesn't feel like, or it won't feel like it is something that is imposed because of the COVID restrictions. We will travel as a group. We will, our bus or other transportation that we use, there will be the cleaning, procedures that will be taken care of by the local people that we work with over there. And while eating, at hotels always, they already started implementing the COVID cleaning procedures. So this, all these cleaning procedures and keeping ourselves safe procedures will be in effect. That is correct. So it is advisable, of course, that we use, I mean, if things don't improve, but don't go worse either, as it is, as of today, it may be advisable that we use, face masks when we are in crowded conditions, for example. Now, when we are visiting the temples, we are in the countryside. We will not be, among many people, open air. So the risk is really low. But when we are in Cairo, let's say, visiting the bazaar, now there will be, really quite a number of people. It'll be crowded. So there, of course, it will be meaningful to, use a face mask. So we will, of course, advise all our travelers about these details before going there and on the spot too. So, but that will be the general idea. One thing I need to remind also that even though we are, hopefully all of us who will join this trip will be vaccinated, on the way back to the States, State Department requires all of us to be tested before coming back. So we will also have to arrange that when we are in Cairo on our last day, on our final day. So we will have a rapid test and get its results. And so that'll be ready to show to the customs people, coming back into the States.
Great, thank you.
I know that Diane, I have a question, and then Florence. So Diane, if you can unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, hi. It's just, I'm trying to find the link on your website. I've been trying to find it all day long for the application, and I just can't find it, including the information on the rate and all that.
The rate is about $6,500 per person. And
Okay.
if you might be familiar, but the terminology of single supplement means additional cost if one wishes to be in the room by themselves, herself, himself. So the rate is based on having 2 individuals per room, it being it a couple or being roommates. And we always, if there are individuals willing to room, we're also open to that. But if the individual says that I would like to book a room to myself only, that is always available. But it's what in this industry is called the single supplement. And in this tour, it's $13.20. I'm sorry, $1,320. And that really ranges, and based on destinations and quality of hotels, and they dictate what that single supplement means. So it's about $6,500. And I plan on following up with all of you. As you know, I always works with IT. 2 hours before the call, my inbox was notifying me that it was completely full, Was not going to send any messages, was not going to receive any messages, to which I try to communicate with our marketing staff via pictures, like a good old days of texting and showing images and making sure that I reach you. So it very well could be that it's a delay in that, because I had so strategically planned out to send everything, and then my inbox just said it's not going to happen. So if you are frustrated, trust me, I was for the last 3 hours trying to get this figured out. So I'll forward everybody the link. I'll follow up. I'll follow the applications as well. So it's Diane, it's not you, it's probably me. So I take all that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I know that Florence, you have I believe.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Okay, so the trip is going to be paid for. How much additional cash should we bring if we just want to do something outside that? Not a exact amount, but what's
Yeah.
a comfortable
Now-
amount? So
Mhm. Now the trip includes all the meals and all the sightseeing, all the entry fees, the local transportation, of course, and you will have paid for the airfare too. So there isn't much that you're going to pay for actually. That is only, if you want to have some extra drinks, a soda or beer or wine, that kind of thing, together with your meal, for example, that is something that we're going to pay out of pocket, plus any kind of souvenirs that you would like to purchase over there. And for that, it is, it can be 500, it can be 5,000. So it is just, you'll determine your budget exactly.
Okay.
So basically, you don't have to spend more than a couple of $100 if you go only with drinks, let's say.
Okay.
But above that, it depends on what you are planning to purchase over there.
Gotcha.
Mike, I see you have a question as well.
Related question to Florence. What about tipping? I don't know what the protocol is in Egypt.
Yes, there are two things about this. One is the regular tipping for our guide and driver, for example, which will be included in the tour price. So you don't just, whatever you pay to World Affairs Council, that includes the tips for guides and drivers and cruise personnel. So you don't have to deal with that part. That is one thing. Second thing is, if you, on your own, if you purchase a drink at the bar, just of course, regular 10% tip, that is at your discretion. Apart from that, the third one actually is something negative, which is wherever we go from Egypt to Morocco, all the northern coast of Africa, all these countries, there is this tradition, I should say, of bakshish, that is requesting money for almost anything and everything. You go out of the hotel and somebody holds the door, and that somebody may not be the personnel of the hotel and maybe expecting some money, 50 cents, $1, something. So that is a problem, so you need to be careful about that. We will advise you about these details, but that is something that is kind of a nuisance actually that we need to be careful about.
Any other thoughts? I'm not seeing any hands raised. Mike,
Okay,
Sally.
I can't resist. I haven't heard anything about camel rides.
well, there are a couple of opportunities that you can try if you like. Giza, at Giza by the pyramids, it is possible to have camel rides. In Luxor, it's possible. In ASWAN, so there are at least 2 or 3 opportunities that you can try if you like. Or horse in Giza again by the pyramids. It's possible to ride horses too.
So how many of you are seriously thinking, or maybe, or most likely? Can you show me your hands? That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you. It is, as I mentioned earlier, it is one of the bucket list items that I think for many of us to certainly, and I see Peter gave us, thumbs up too. Again, I do plan on following up with all of you today, tomorrow, and for weeks to come. Certainly keep us posted. Any questions that might come, because I know it was a lot of information, but we do this on purpose to make sure that immerse you and kind of take a visual ride with us on first time. I know you need to process it, to understand it, to ask questions, but we are here to help you out. And as soon as there's really no such thing as committing too early. If you say this is something that I want to do, we want to go ahead and make sure that we capture that and then we communicate it back and start allocating and populating groups. I'll probably do one more discussion about Egypt later in the fall, just because other individuals might be joining and or yourself might have some other questions, but we certainly plan on, if not repeating, at least do something similar on this. And I do work with the Consulate of Egypt. Actually, I saw him today. There was a function, the Bastille Day, hosted by the Consul General of France at the residence. And he helped us last time with visas, so he's ready to help us too. And he's very excited to see another group from Houston interested in talking about his homeland. So he's very proud. Maybe next time we invite him to join us. And I'm actually hoping the next time maybe something we can do in person, see each other. I know, Elias, you'll probably be virtually from New Jersey. You're always welcome to join us, but at least, it's conversation we can have in person. It is this camaraderie that built that we always appreciate as well. I think I'm all, I think, answered any kind of requests and thoughts that I have on my side. Elias, any kind of closing comments for you?
Well, I hope things will improve as far as COVID is concerned, and we won't have any, second thoughts in our minds, in the back of our mind about this trip or any other trip. That is the first thing. The second thing is, if you are, quite sure that you are going to join, it is better to act early and to take advantage of the low airfares, because as the time gets close to the departure date, then airfares will, of course, will increase. So that is another thing that I would like to remind everyone.
I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you all for joining. We went a little bit after the hour of 7, but again, appreciate your time. I know it's a lot of history, a lot of important details about traveling with us. I express my thanks on behalf of the council for being here, being interested. Stay in touch, and we can't wait to see you all in person, and definitely can't wait to see you in Cairo. So more to come. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
All right.